Get back here!
No!
Hi everyone, welcome to how to animate a fight scene step by step. My name is Alex, and this is a time-lapse tutorial of my workflow. This video is good for all levels, as there's something for everyone. Let's jump in. The first thing we need when we start a new scene is we need a character or characters, and we need an environment. These characters are from Agora website, and the set is from Kitbash. One thing to note about these characters when you load them up, if you're going to use them, a bunch of their controls are not displayed, so you're going to have to turn those on. Once I have the characters and I have the environment, I'm looking for staging. Where is this action going to take place? So I found this open area, and it worked well. The next thing that you need is an idea. And oftentimes the idea just comes from loading these assets up and seeing what I can put together. So I figured out, I wanted, based off these characters in this environment, that this smaller character in the blue shirt could push the character in the white shirt, and that would kick off the fight. And that's what I'm blocking here, using their move alls. I'm blocking in that push. This shot 2 here on screen right, that's my camera framing. And I'm starting off with a smaller to mid-size establishing shot, showing what's happening, what the action is, who the characters are, and what's the environment. I'm not showing the full environment, but I'm still showing quite a bit of it. So it's a good establishing shot. What I'm doing here is after I blocked in the scene and I'm playing back my animation, my frame rate is about 12 frames a second. And so I want to optimize my scene so that I can work as quick as I can. And what I'm doing now is I'm selecting parts of the set and I'm going to put them in its own collection. And then I'll put the characters in that collection and then see if that's going to help my frame rate. So I've duplicated this set, added it into this temp collection, and I'm just deleting parts of the geo that I don't need. I'm putting the characters in that collection. And then here in the top left corner, I saw that I was 25 frames a second, 24, 25, 26 frames. So my frame rate, my playback is good. Then I'm adding more geometry so that I have more information and I can work within that collection. And I have more geo to help me frame and compose my shots as I'm going along. So I'm just adding more geometry, testing my frame rate to make sure my playback is good. So I'm adding this last bit here. I'm deleting this transparent water, this reflective water, and then testing to see if my frame rate's good, and it is. So I'm happy with the amount of information I have and my playback. What I'm doing now is I'm setting up my second shot. So I'm selecting the camera, keying on frame 25, going to frame 26, and in that camera viewport, just finding that next framing. And I know the action is in that direction, so I'm placing that camera so the characters come into frame, and then I'm working within the environment to see what is a nice framing. And this second shot with the railing in the foreground and framing the character in the blue shirt, it's a nice framing. So I'm continuing the action here. I'm just moving some of the sets that is getting in my way. But I'm continuing that action. And oftentimes, the workflow I'm doing, I would use for both personal work and studio work. But the main difference is when you're doing studio work is the ideas provided for you. You might be filling in some of the ideas and how that action takes place, but the idea is provided in the form of a storyboard or a script, or a director pitching an idea to you. So you know what the beginning is and you know what the end is. Sometimes the middle is unclear. When you're doing personal work, oftentimes I find that I don't know what the ending is. And this is that case. So that's why the environment plays a role and the types of character rigs you have loaded in plays a role, because that all feeds into the idea. And when I work this way, everything is linear. I come up with the initial idea, well, maybe the character can push this character and that's how the fight happens. After that, everything goes linearly forward. And this idea feeds into this idea, which then sparks a new idea. And so I lean into that straight ahead workflow. Awesome. So I'm just posing out this character in the white shirt here, catching himself on the rail after the push, and then turning him. So I'm keeping my blocking of the idea and the action rough, just to make sure it's all working. Is it clear? Is it entertaining? And if those are yeses, then I know I can continue. And if there's something in there that's not clear or that's boring, I can fix it in this blocking stage. So I'm working on this turn, and this turn here in this second shot's important because it's going to motivate the cut into the third shot. I don't want to cut without a reason, and the reason is that big turn. So here the character caught himself. I did a small overshoot. He's going to lift himself and turn, and that's when the cut's going to happen. I'm just blocking in now the character in the blue shirt, continuing to walk forward after the push and engage that character in the white shirt. I'm going back to the camera here, and I'm going to add a camera move. So what happens in this choreography, there's always a back and forth. It starts with the staging area. Where is this taking place? Then it starts with some action. Then it starts with filming that action. And then you're refining the action, which then you refine your composition, your camera framing. So here, now that I've moved the character in the blue, I'm going back to frame 1 of that second shot, and then the last frame of that second shot, and adding a camera move to make sure I keep that character in the blue shirt framed between those wooden rails. So that's all I'm doing here, but I'm working within that initial framing, but refining it with a camera move. Awesome. And now I've keyed one frame. The very next frame here, I go into my third shot, framing it, and it's a pretty big over the shoulder. And I'm going to have that character in the white shirt finish that turn to hook up that action. But this is how I frame freely for different shots here. One thing to note about that third shot, that framing, is that gap between the two characters, that negative space to me is important. So as the character in the white shirt rushes forward, that negative gap is going to close. Here, I'm going back to that turn at the end of the second shot, just making that turn, adding a little drag into my posing. And then here in the beginning of the third shot, I'm now working on what that pose is going to look like. After the turn, what does that pose look like for the character in the white shirt? I want it to be pretty mad, pretty aggressive. And so I'm just blocking that pose by moving all the controls I think I need. I'm not too worried about cleanliness. I'm more worried about idea and speed and how one pose relates to the other. But overall, it's about clarity and it's about moving quickly. So here we go. I'm just posing that character, moving controls, and worrying about eyeline direction as well. But like I said, the idea to me is important. So that pose is selling an idea. Okay. Once I have that pose I'm getting into, then I go back to that cut point. And so here it's at frame 60 and 61 between shot 2 and shot 3. So 60, I finish the turn, half the turn. 61, I go back and I can reset part of the turn to make it look good from this angle. And that's okay. No one knows. But I'm just working now on this turn from this angle here. And then I test the work. And so now we have 3 shots in this first initial blocking stage. Awesome. And this character in the white shirt now, he's getting ready to yell. And then this is kind of a pre-anticipation. You can see he's getting up there. He's about to lose it. Then he's going to go down into this, and that's the true anticipation pose where all that energy stored, and then he's going to rush the character in the blue shirt. So that's what I'm doing here. He's getting down low, and I'm just posing that idea, getting those hands up, making those shapes and that negative space, just the overall body, making it read from this angle. Not worried too much about detail yet. We're not at that stage. It's all about ideas. And so you can see here in this blocking portion that I I was at frame, what is that? 71, 75, 79, 83, 87, 91. Here, I'm always on 4. So my timing is consistent and I don't have to worry about that. And I'm just going ahead, straight ahead, blocking what the character in the white shirt looks like when he rushes forward. That's all I'm doing here. And again, the detail is not there. It's not important. The idea is important, but not the detail of the pose. I know I can go back, clean the poses up. So here I'm getting ready to strike. I'm going, in this case, 8 frames between those two extreme poses, just before the windup, or that is the windup pose, and then the aftermath of the pose of the punch. And then I'll go back and delay and add some drag as the fist comes through. But you can see how this blocking for me takes place. So I finished that right hand cross, or in this case, the character is the left hand cross, and then continuing that momentum, I'm like, okay, what can happen? Maybe an uppercut happens here. And because of the momentum of the character in the white shirt pushing forward, I'm just blocking, I'm continuing that movement forward. I'm not worried about the character in the blue. I know I can animate him to react to the character in the white. So I'm just continuing with that character in the white shirt here, pushing him forward, and then I'll also update the camera framing. But what's important here is that movement forward. So I did the left hand cross, right hand uppercut, and then, okay, well, what could happen next? Maybe that body can turn. And as I'm animating, I'm standing right here, and I'm just throwing some punches and seeing how my body wants to turn and move. And so then I go ahead and block that idea into that character as well. So there's 3 or 4 attacks that character in the white shirt throws on the character in the blue shirt, and they're just fluid. Knowing that that's how I want to approach this fight scene, at least for this one shot, right away I knew that I'll just have the character in the blue shirt react. So like I said, I'm just moving forward straight ahead, and whatever happens to come to my mind as an idea, I run with it and I test it out. I play it back. Is it working? Yes. I continue. If it's not working, I'll adjust. And there's moments here where I thought maybe the character can do something, turn a certain way, and then I play it back, and actually it didn't look that good. Boop, 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 undo, try something else. So it's very fluid. That's the key, I think, is to be loose. And try your ideas out. Okay? So I'm just playing it back, seeing if it's working. And at this point, I know this is probably that last final strike, just based off how I'm moving as well. There was 1, 2, the turn, and then the final punch. And as I'm doing it, that final punch just felt like I was ready to kind of finish moving forward. And that's when I thought the character in the blue shirt could start to engage in terms of the fight at that point. Okay, so what I'm doing now is I've added an empty control, this circle control. I've constrained the camera to that empty, and I'm doing an orbit shot now. For this action scene, I knew I wanted some kind of dynamic character movement and camera movement. So an orbit while the character is also rotating, I think that's pretty cool. And so I'm just blocking that in. And like I said before, there's always a back and forth. I describe the action enough so that I have information so that I can film it, and then I film it. And that action is very rough at this stage. And then I refine it up to a certain point, and I go back to the action. In this case, I'll have to go back to the character in the blue, add him in. So then I can go back to the camera and adjust my framing so then I'm showing everyone. But you can see there's a lot of back and forth. And right now I've described the character in the white, and I'm going to the camera, and I'm just finding that orbit, and then I go to the camera and I can adjust the depth and the FOV and my pan as well. So now that I've done those to a certain level, now I'm gonna block in the character in the blue shirt. And before I do this second shot, no, this is the third shot, what does that stance look like? And I wanted the character in the white shirt to be more aggressive. But the character in the blue shirt here is not a pushover. He's got his fist clenched and a little bit of a silhouette shape happening here as he's waiting for the attack to come. Cool. This part's actually a little easier once I blocked the character in the white shirt and the timing's roughly working and the shapes are roughly working. Well, all I have to do for the character in the blue shirt is react to what I just did. So that part's a little easier. So I'm scrubbing, getting an idea what could happen, where the character needs to be in screen space based off my framing, knowing that I could adjust it as well. But I've done a certain blocking, and I know I have to get the character in the blue shirt moving back and left or right, doesn't matter, so that the camera can also see him as well. So that's all I'm doing here is I'm blocking that character in the blue shirt, reacting, and you can see the character in the white shirt from here is blocking. So I'll just pull the character in the blue shirt screen left so that the camera can see him. At a certain point, there will be a transition period where they're both blocked. The character in the blue shirt's blocked by the character in the white shirt. But yeah, you're blocking that action, and then I'm testing it out from that framing perspective of my camera. But you can see everything is rough still. I'm not worried about the cleanliness. You see how I pull him screen left? I need to see that character. I want to, for clarity. And then what I thought was cool is he's going to avoid, almost like a master of fighting. He avoids the punch that just happened, but looks that way. So I thought that was cool. And so I'm blocking that idea in, and later on I refine it and push it. But I want to make sure it's communicating. That's the main thing. I'm not too worried, but I do pay attention to the foot placements. Right now I can slide him a little bit, but you can see I do care about where it is, the foot contact, roughly making sense. I don't want to lose that and then have the feet underneath, even though I don't show it in this framing, feel swimmy. So I do think about that, and I move it together. And then here, that character in the white shirt's really getting ready for his final attack. Well, he thinks it's his final attack. And I'm getting that character in the blue shirt low. Later on, I'll really pull him back for that final attack, or for the initial blow. Cool. So I'm testing it out, seeing if it's working. And already the blocking with the two characters interacting in the camera orbit, the idea is working. So at this point, I'm seeing that it's working. And I know that I can continue. And before I fully get in there, here's, I think, one of those ideas where I'm like, okay, well, maybe the character can actually turn this way instead of this way. And I rotated the character 360 degrees just there. And I'm testing that idea. So I'm getting ready for this really cool attack, and I want the audience to see it, and I want that pose of the hand to stay there at least 8 frames, let the audience see it, and then he's gonna strike. So yeah, lots of little back and forths, but to me this, what shot is this one? This one's 1, 2, this is the third shot. To me, the third shot out of the 7 or 8 shots in this little fight scene, to me the third shot is the cooler shot. And I'm spending a bit more time on that already. So just seeing, does the arm look better up here, down here, posing those ideas out. And I'm trying to be still rough about it, but like I said, this idea I know is already a cool idea, and I want to already start putting some information to see what looks better. Cool. So the character in the white shirt, you can see that punch. Later on, I'll exaggerate that move. But I'm just now working on this contact. So it's a lot of back and forth. This character's got to be in this pose. That character meets him, continues the action. Then I got to go back to that point. Then have that other character react to that contact. So lots of back and forth. And that's just how these fight scenes work. So I'm describing that action, and like I said, in just a little bit, I'll continue that orbit, and eventually the camera is going to face fully around for that final framing of this third shot. Cool, so you can see here I'm selecting that camera. I've described the action enough that, well, I know the action is going to continue pushing screen left, so I'm going to need some more frame real estate. I'm going to need to turn that camera. But before I do, I'm exaggerating some of these poses. You can see I'm adding some drag as the body's moving in one direction. I'm leaving the arm there and really showing you that this attack is coming. And I'm not worried either about overstretching the character. I think being that it's more of a cartoony anime look, it's okay, and it definitely adds to it. Later on, I even scale some of the controls, which scales the geometry and almost adds a smear frame look to it. Cool. So just worrying about this contact, it's an important pose, and here actually I decided that the contact won't be on the geometry on the shirt, but actually goes through it, which then will force me to pose the character in the white shirt and hopefully make that hit more impactful. And just like I did before with the character in the white shirt when he was attacking and he was moving, I was continuing his action, just finishing that idea. Here now it's the character in the blue shirt. That momentum, his actual movement forward, is strong enough that I want to finish that idea. And then as I was just standing here figuring out what that movement could be, I would feel that action, and then my arm just naturally wanted to come back for an elbow attack. So that's what I'm posing here is an aggressive elbow strike. And again, it looks a little complicated. There's the characters within the characters, but as I'm moving forward, the idea becomes a little more clear what the next pose needs to be. And as I'm posing or about to pose the next idea, I can already imagine the next one or two things that needs to happen, but I can't see that much further into the future. So after the strike, I know the character is going to go back. That's about as much as I know until then I get there, and then I see what looks good, what might work, and then I come up with some other ideas. Okay, so here I've selected the empty, which the camera's constrained to, and I'm just continuing that orbit now, knowing that I need that frame screen real estate. And here now the character in the white shirt's really gonna, hopefully you're gonna feel that impact. So I'm adding his tummy and his COGs going back because of the hit, but I'm leaving that shoulder and that arm where it was overall in that neck, just so you can feel that impact, feel that stretch. So even at this stage, just blocking those big ideas in there. The detail in terms of how really the cleanliness of the lines look, not too concerned with yet. You can see that the arm's coming up for the character in the blue. I know I need to push that character in the white quite far back so that I have that space and you can see it in the camera view. Here as well, you can see that this character, and I don't know if I said it at the beginning, but the characters have faces. The rigs don't come that way. So what that is I drew a grease pencil face and constrained it to the geometry of the head. And I think that works pretty well. Awesome. So you can see how the blocking is progressing. I'm getting ready for that other major contact here. So I'm just continuing to pose. Nothing in terms of any detail really yet, but still I need to sell the shapes where it is and make sure that it all works together. Cool, moving forward, and I think this next frame here is that initial contact of the elbow. And then when that contact really takes place, everything, because it gets hit in the nose and the face here, everything after goes back from that body part. And so the biggest point of contact, or the biggest impact point, is the head, and the head's going to move back first, and then the chest and shoulders, and then the arms kind of stay where they are, and then they whip back later. The COG moves a little less. So that initial, it's like a bouncing ball. The most extreme points just before the contact, and then the next pose is also extreme. That's the same principle here. Cool. Let's take a look at the blocking here. So it's starting to really come together at this stage. Yeah, it's feeling really good. So I'm going to continue that action of now the character in the white shirt stumbling back. That was a big contact. And I really like just the look of the character in the blue. I'm going to refine that pose, but that was a big contact. And I'm going to continue that character in the white shirt. After I saw that blocking, I knew that was a big impact. He's going to stumble back. And then I thought that I thought that I don't want the fight to be done. I don't want the character to fall. So I'm going to have the character in the blue reach and grab the character in the white shirt and continue the combat. So that's all based off that initial pose. And then when I see the blocking, the next idea sparked. And so then I go ahead and just pose the character, refine the framing so that I can show the idea. And here, in order to know really how far the character in the white shirt needs to stumble back, I want to know what the character in the blue shirt looks like when he's reaching in depth towards the character in the white, what that pose looks like and the distance. So I'm blocking that in there. And then I'll go back to the character in the white shirt. So just moving different body parts, being rough about it. Again, nothing too precious here in terms of which body parts I use, which controls, but selling the idea. Cool. So he's reaching in that direction, and then I get the head also looking in that same direction. Now I go back to the character in the white, and I know I can really push that depth, that distance away from the character in the blue and the camera. So he's almost out of it. He's just leaning back, stumbling back, and as he's doing so, I figured his arms can come up a little, naturally, hopefully, looking, but also so that the character in the blue shirt has something to grab onto. So blocking that idea in there. He's about to fall over, tip over, until the character in the blue saves him, but only to punish him later. Here you can see I'm still going back and forth between the two characters, blocking them in, and then the camera continues to orbit around. So I'm just refining that movement and then testing it out here again. Cool, and I think it's working. Yeah, shot 3 is almost done. And one of the nice things too is when I'm coming up with different camera, here we go, I'm working on the 4th shot here. And this one's an insert shot. An insert shot is usually something, it's a close-up of something. And in this case, it's a close-up of the hand of the character in the blue shirt, grabbing the hand of the character in the white shirt here. So usually an insert shot, yes, is a character grabbing a mug or stepping into frame. Just some close-up detail. And when you're blocking your own action scene, think of how you can change shot sizes, meaning maybe I go wide and then I go close up and then it's a profile shot and then it's a 2-shot and then it's back to wide and then a close up on his eyes. You want to have contrast in how you're cutting to different shots. So knowing that I wanted that, as I'm blocking that elbow contact to the nose, already that sparked the idea he's going to grab him. Okay, I need an insert shot here. It's going to look good. So I'm blocking that idea in there. He grabs in, the action continues, then he's going to pull him back. Here, sometimes I don't know fully what I want the next shot to be. When I don't, I frame it in my perspective window, thinking what it could be. And then if I'm happy with it, then I'll do it in my camera view. So that 4th shot, the character reaches in and then pulls him. And then I'm trying to figure out what that next shot's going to look like. Shot number 5 here. And my cuts from one shot to another always work when I'm doing it this way over one frame. I key everything. I key the characters, I key the camera. If I'm working with multiple controls, I'll make sure everything is keyed over those 2 frames. And so here we go. This next shot is a full body and I've widened the lens and the camera's right down to the ground and it's an up shot. Very cool heroic shot. You can see at least from this angle, they're bigger because they're closer than the buildings, at least in that initial framing. So just playing with shapes there as well and how that looks. Here I'm describing the action. Okay, so I grabbed the character in that previous shot, the hand shot. Here I'm pulling the character, and I thought, okay, well, what could happen next? Maybe I just twirl the character in the white shirt. I just do a 360. So I'm blocking that out, seeing if it's a good idea. And if it's not a good idea, well, I'll try something else. If it is a good idea, perfect. Then I know I can continue. Here I'm going to cut forward a little bit and show the workflow that I did for animating the face, the grease pencil face. The rest of the scene is all happening the same way. It is me describing the action, filming it, and when I'm happy with that action and the filming, cut to the next shot. So the next 3-4 shots all happen roughly the same way. So here with the grease pencil face, I had a keyframe on frame 43. I go to my next expression and I just erase what I had and just draw it again. I'm not the best drawer, and for this project, I didn't need to be. I didn't need to be that precise, just good enough so that it complements the action. And here, drawing in the eyebrows, the eyes, and then and just roughly trying to keep it on model. I had a picture here on my other monitor of what I think the character best looks like with the face here. So just drawing that in, and then I'll fill in the eye whites and the mouth, and work with the grease pencil that way. Before this point, right at the beginning of the shot, as I was setting up the scene, the characters come in with a blank, no face, just the geometry they had. And I didn't want no face. I didn't want a blank face to distract from the scene, from the fight scene. So I drew a grease pencil face on the geometry of each of their faces, constrained the grease pencil to the geometry, made sure it all worked. It did. And then I knew I can then animate an expression or two and just complement the character rigs themselves. So that's what I did at the beginning. And then at this stage, I knew it was going to work. Here, filling in the eye whites. I'm going to go back in. And so what happened at this point is the character in the white shirt caught himself on the rail. He had a big expression at the beginning of the shot. As he caught himself, he closed his eyes, and here he's just coming back up, and he's going to look to the side. So I'm just drawing in that eye direction facing screen left, the character in the blue shirt. So I'm drawing his pupil in there, his eye, and you can see that from my perspective window, screen left, it looks better, and then on the right, it doesn't look better. So eventually what I ended up doing is just coloring in certain aspects from my camera perspective window, from my camera viewport. But just drawing that in, I have my auto keyframe on, so when I work with grease pencil, that's on. When I'm just working with the armature rigs, I typically now, as of the last couple of years, I keep the auto key off, but I've had it on for the last 10 years. And so both are okay, and it doesn't matter which one you like or which one you prefer. They're both good. But for working with the grease pencil, yes, very much recommend the auto key on. So just adding a little bit more detail. And what I've done here as well, because the grease pencil, when you draw on the surface of a geometry, it follows the contour of that geometry. I also just hid the hair to make sure the hair wasn't going to receive any grease pencil lines. But you can see how that workflow takes place. And I hope you enjoyed this time-lapse tutorial of my workflow. And if you did, please leave a comment and like the video. All right, everyone. Take care. Bye-bye.
Get back here! No! Get back here! No!